Hoyle Upchurch grew up during the 1930s in High Falls, North Carolina. He was a young man with big dreams of flying planes one day.
Draw a plane, a picture of a plane, and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a pilot.
And later on, he got him what they call an aviator's cap, had the goggles up there. And then he really let it be known that his plans was to be an aviator.
The people of High Falls knew of Hoyle Upchurch's plans. Classmates watched him leave for a career around airplanes and then enlist in the military during World War II.
Principal would talk to us, W.G. Crowtrain said we're going into war because of Hitler, And he said, no doubt some of you guys will be killed. And he said, well, I'll be flying.
I seen him the last time, the day that he went to sign up. And he was waiting for his uncle to come there to go in Fort Bragg, going to sign up. And it said he's going to be in the Air Force.
That's a wonderful project.
Marie Presler last spoke with Hoyle at their high school graduation.
I never saw him after then. We graduated that night and he was leaving. And he told us all goodbye and he would buzz us someday in the plane when he came home.
Second Lieutenant Upchurch vanished October 6, 1944, while air patrolling over southern China. The military said he was missing in action, but his parents, siblings, and High Falls classmates would grow old and many would pass away, wanting more proof of what really happened.
My mother would cry talking about him. She loved him so much, and the not knowing what happened to him just hurt her so bad. It was just no closure.
The whole family still hoped that somehow Hoyle would come back, although I think we knew that he had died.
Wouldn't it be something if Hoyle came walking up that driveway? There never was, I think they knew he was dead, but we didn't really know for sure.
They didn't know really what to think, and I remember his daddy would come down to visit my daddy, and that was his main thing to talk about was Hoyle being missing in an accident.
You can just imagine having a son. You didn't know where he was, but you knew he was somewhere, and he wouldn't come home. She kept looking for him.
A MIA recovery team excavated a Chinese grave containing a U.S. fighter pilot's remains in 2005. Their research led them to High Falls United Methodist Church, the empty grave awaiting Lieutenant Upchurch's homecoming and the generations that waited for him.
When I got that phone call, it came from the church. My sister called, and she told me that they had thought they had found Hoyle's grave, but they would need DNA.
So your mom died 4 years ago?
4 years ago.
Great nieces Lorraine Beal and Karen Lake offered blood for testing. A DNA match confirmed Hoyle Upchurch had been discovered.
When I heard that they'd been found, my teeth was chattering so hard that I could hardly talk.
You never dream of anything being through DNA that you were able to come up with that this was blood kin.
I did this for my mother because she loved Hoyle so much, and I wanted him to come home. We needed that closure.
The confirmation comes decades too late for Lieutenant Upchurch's parents. His siblings, except for some sisters-in-law, have also passed away and their children moved across America. None of the current generation knew Hoyle Upchurch, only that their parents grew old praying for a miracle.
Everybody in the Upchurch family understood that Mr. and Ms. Upchurch and his siblings all wanted Hoyle to be brought back to High Falls. So the sense I get of it is that the family is really just carrying out the wishes of previous generations of our parents.
He's become more of a person to me now, and I'm really mourning his loss now because he's real to me now.
The circle has been completed. We've heard this all of our life. We've known Hoyle.
Then there's High Falls, where Lieutenant Upchurch's friends never forgot his style, his personality, and some parting comments he wrote before he left.
Well, he probably wrote it in everybody's yearbook. He probably wrote the same thing. When you and I, my dear, depart, can sorrow touch your tender heart, I too some far-off land may roam, sleep and die in a land unknown.
Lieutenant Upchurch's homecoming brings descendants back to their High Falls roots. Some have never experienced it. Cousins who've never met before are coming together to see their Uncle Hoyle come home one last time.
You know, I think he would be tickled to know that me and my sister are getting to meet cousins we've never met before because of this. That's neat.
We knew it would happen. We'd talk about it when we would have our class reunions. He will be coming home.
I think, you know, in the Upchurch family, they're all pretty religious, and they feel very confident that Mr. and Ms. Upchurch are in heaven now looking down and saying, "Job well done."
We don't have to worry about where Hoyle is anymore. We know that he's here at our church where he's belonged for the last 62 years.
This is homecoming at High Falls United Methodist Church, and the second one since World War II fighter pilot and church member Lieutenant Robert Hoyle Upchurch returned home. Upchurch disappeared while flying over China's Hunan province in October 1944. 60 years later, U.S. officials searching for those missing in action found his remains buried in the village of Guidong.
I grew up going to family gatherings and hearing about stories of Uncle Hoyle and just never really knowing, you know, who the man was or who the Flying Tigers were.
Flying Tigers.
The Flying Tigers were the 23rd Fighter Group of the U.S. Army Air Forces. It fought the Japanese over Chinese airspace during World War II. Lieutenant Upchurch vanished on his first mission as a Flying Tiger.
It was such a sad thing about Hoyle because he was the sharpest little guy in school, and he was kind to everybody and liked to do his funny tricks, and everybody loved Hoyle.
Mr. and Ms. Upchurch always thought that he would be found someday. She never believed that he was dead.
Newly assigned pilots go with the veterans.
Lieutenant Upchurch wrote a letter to his mom and said, "Don't worry about me. If I get bopped off over here, I'm not married. It won't make any difference. In a couple of years, I'll be forgotten." Well, it wasn't Lieutenant Hoyle Upchurch's call to be forgotten.
Any one thing could have gone wrong and we would have never known his fate. And with there being, I understand, about 70,000 World War II men who were missing in action and unaccounted for, to find one and be able to identify him is a very remarkable feat.
We just kept hoping that one day we were going to find him,
They found him.
and we did.
What did it mean to find him to the generation that remembered him?
Well, it was closure. To me, it was closure to get him back here. And I'm sorry, this is very emotional for me.
Upchurch family members traveled to China, to Guidong Village in April 2007. They met those villagers who cared for Lieutenant Upchurch's grave.
Going to China this past spring and meeting all the wonderful folks in China who have taken care of my uncle's remains all these years, it's just an unbelievable story.
The fact that the people that found this pilot got him from the plane, took him to a burial site, and maintained the grave for 61 years. Every year in China, they have a day they call the Grave Sweeping Day. And these people that found that pilot would go to that grave and make sure that grave was maintained.
Guidong officials unveiled a marker permanently honoring Upchurch's sacrifice.
It's an awesome cross standing on a mountainside just beneath a 500-year-old structure, a pagoda that was built by one of their dynasties. So now when you look straight up like this, you see that huge structure, and down underneath you see that cross Lieutenant Hall Upchurch, just like you see here in this graveyard.
Seagrove potter Ben Owen III's creation honors High Falls' link with Guidong Village. The red glazed pottery thanks villagers for its dignified treatment of Lieutenant Upchurch's grave and High Falls' new relationship with Guidong.
Just the symbolism of this friendship that's been established through making something an earthen vessel, how God takes us and makes us into vessels, and from there we feel like it's a way for us to give back and share in this friendship.
Guidong and High Falls will both keep ceremonial pottery holding soil from Lieutenant Upchurch's two resting places.
This mixing of soil was a way of representing not only our relationship, but also to them, that we can convey this message that our love is equal, no matter if we're all the way around the other side of the world, but that we're all the same.
And having gone to China and seen the similar terrain in the area that my uncles rested for many years, and to know that this pot holds the earths of both ends of our world, it is pretty humbling.
It's brought a lot of people together that you would never think about getting together, and I don't know anything else I can say except we're just so happy that he is back home now.
It gives us closure to know what ultimately did happen to our uncle, and it gives us new stories to pass along to our future children.